Really? Chili. Really? Really?
Chili.
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 Chili? Really?
What is performance? Well, it's the difference. It's the difference between what's practical and sometimes maybe even what's durable. Performance, or high performing, doesn't always mean the most longevity or abuse friendly, for example. For example, think of a Formula One car. Highest performing vehicle on the face of the planet. Is it durable? Heck no. You brush those things against the wall and they blow apart into a million pieces. Are they low maintenance? Absolutely not. Probably the highest maintenance automotive in existence. But what does it do? It outperforms everything else. This applies to anything high performance. Kitchenware, knives. Is the sharpest knife the most durable? Probably not. That's what makes it sharp. It's on the cusp of failure. It's made to perform, not necessarily to tolerate. So this footage right here is Peavine Trail in Prescott, Arizona. And this is filmed with an iPhone 10 in 4K, 30 frames per second. However, that's not how it is, processed and edited. I think by the time I'm done messing with this footage, it's 720 at 24 frames per second. So, does it get better? Well, yes, an iPhone 10 is old now. And why not 4K 60 frames per second, right? You'll see here in a little while. But let's talk this performance level. If you didn't know that, what I just told you about the image value of this footage, what would you have guessed? Is this stuff that even matters? Well, sometimes, and more often than not, you'll only realize a performance difference when you have a comparison. How would you know what a high-performance sports car feels like to drive to work if you've never done it? You can imagine, and some of us are for sure gifted with powerful imaginations. You can watch a movie and feel it. Or maybe you're just that type of empathetic where you're so sensitive to what you see, hear, and feel, you can simulate it enough in your own mind to take yourself there or get yourself to the point where you're like, okay, I can sense that difference, So maybe you might be able to see the difference. And later on, I'll show you some footage from an iPhone 14 Pro Max in 4K 60 frames per second. The image stabilization, for example, that's a huge performance difference. Let's talk about other things that may perform differently. How about shoes? I think we've all had an awakening at some point where you go, okay, you know what? That $80 pair of running shoes was worth every dollar, as opposed to maybe, whatever shoes you had prior that were half that price, or maybe you've never spoiled yourself on a ridiculous pair of tennis shoes. My guilty pleasure is buying basketball shoes. I love hoop shoes. Some just have a different anatomy, and aesthetically I'm attracted to them. Most of them inspire confidence. Yeah, they inspire confidence. I can put the shoes on and I immediately feel faster. Like I can maybe even jump higher. Is it true? Sure, because in your mind, if you believe it, with conviction comes results. So, that's the other thing that can be a performance difference is your mindset. Do you have to be driving a sports car to have fun driving to work? No, not necessarily. But how can you enhance the performance of your experience in that vehicle? Maybe you would rather have a killer sound system to listen to the music that you really enjoy on the way to work or on the way home. So performance doesn't always have to be, some type of speed advantage, or in this case with RC crawlers, you want these things to sit low and just snag onto every surface and texture possible, right? Now, I will tell you this, I have some crawlers that are not very good at sitting low and do not snag onto every texture and surface that I drive on. And I can tell you right now, I still have fun with them because it's only after driving one of those inferior crawlers that when I go over to a higher performing crawler and I drive it and record it and watch the footage, I realize, oh my gosh, there's a huge performance difference here. I love it. It makes sense when you have the comparison. So my point with this is, it's not necessary to always max out the budget and buy the highest performing whatever, bicycle, blow dryer for your hair, toothbrush, pair of tennis shoes. It's okay to start out, and I would suggest this, start out somewhere in the middle maybe. You obviously know that if you start at the bottom and you pick up an item that is at the bottom of its scale, let's say like the bronze label whatever, kitchen knives, that eventually they're going to be dull or they're just not going to feel well in your hand. So next time around you up the budget and you err more towards the side of a performance knife set or tennis shoe or sunglasses, fancy for lack of better terms. And then now you are that much more appreciative of your investment, the difference. And now you can tell, you can, feel a performance difference. And of course, sky's the limit with a lot of this stuff. I work in a cycling industry that consists of bicycles that range from a practical $400 or $500 all the way up to a $10,000 carbon fiber full suspension mountain bike that you can just kind of point and shoot across trails like what I'm driving this crawler on, technical, steep, and the bike will get you there. If you trust it and you invest in the equipment, the performance it's noticeable, undeniable in most cases. Like you'll know right away. It will inspire that confidence, which also encourages you to try things that maybe you wouldn't have tried on the previous bicycle or with the very first pair of running shoes you bought. Now that you have the nicer ones, maybe you run for a longer amount of time, or you graduate into a more advanced terrain, more hilly, or perhaps it's all in your head and you just feel like you look better, so you try harder, and then now you're working. So performance is not something that necessarily always costs money. You can sometimes find things that you will achieve a better performance level in or on or with, because it's mated to fit you better. So let's use dancing shoes or ice skates, something like that. You can come across a smoking deal on some ice skates on a popular app like OfferUp, and maybe once upon a time someone spent $1,000 on this specific pair of ice skates, and they're lightly used, they're still in great condition, they're your size, aesthetically you love them, can't wait to get your hands on them and take them out. However, does that mean they're going to work great for you specifically and your feet? Something that is very unique, right? This is a fit quality now that has to make sense, or else the size of the skates could be off, and this great deal that you got on this, $1,000 pair of skates that you now scored for, let's say, $120, well, they're a little snug. Maybe they're not true to size, or the person who wore them before you had a totally different anatomy in their feet, and the skates have molded to their foot, and now you have to kind of like work through that. Does that mean you are going to perform your best when you go and skate with those new skates? No, probably not. You're probably going to have blisters, discomfort. You might even totally eat pie in front of like a bunch of people and embarrass yourself. I wouldn't consider that a very awesome performance. So, it applies with, unfortunately, some complications. I have a couple of crawlers that I struggle to really feel confident in. I've had just rough days with either, breaking apart or multiple parts, or the physics to me just don't really click with my mindset or my personality type. So, in particular, I have a crawler that collects a lot of dust because there's times where it's just a love and hate relationship. It was a great deal, and that's why I picked it up. But it is probably not one that I would miss if it found a home. No, it doesn't mean it's for sale. I'm still keeping it in the inventory, but it's not my favorite. And it could be someone else's favorite, or it could be a better performing RC crawler for someone who has a different driving style or, perspective on things. So what works great for you, or what you might consider a high performing whatever, doesn't mean that it's that for everyone else. So performance is relative. Safe to say, it is definitely relative to each one of us. I like the kitchen knife, kind of way of comparing things, because I am definitely guilty of trying to cut everything with like the same steak knife. And recently, after receiving some really special and really cool kitchen knives that are in the high performance category of cutlery, I am so sold on precision kitchenware. Wow. I have been missing out. Yes. And I will say this too. This is kind of one that stood out to me a lot because it was such a foreign category of things to purchase for myself. Some time ago, I graduated some acting classes that I took, and from in which I learned to apply makeup for photo shoots and auditions. If you're going to put your face on a camera, there's a few things you might want to take into consideration so you don't look all blown out or totally sunburnt, and makeup is one of those things. And learning how to use it, it could go both ways. You could make yourself look like a total rodeo clown on a bender, or you can shave what would appear to be years off your life in the form of just the complexion of your skin if you learn how to use the makeup correctly. But here's the thing with makeup, and a lot of you ladies out there, or professionals, not just women but men as well that use makeup, this, I recently learned it, You get what you pay for with makeup. However, there's also things that are not terribly expensive or even considered, high-end. Look at this little guy. He's crawling too. Okay, so this footage coming up, here is your iPhone 14 Pro Max in cinematic mode, 4K, 60 frames per second. Okay, so back to our topic, makeup. I have a few components in my makeup kit that I use that most would consider low budget, like your standard Walgreens or CVS level, kind of less than $20 foundation. And there are times where the appliance of that lesser expensive foundation really works better for my skin, the lighting from which is, present the day of that photo shoot or that audition that I'm going to submit. And then there's also times where that lower budget makeup does not do me any good, depending on what color shirt I'm wearing or the lighting in the room. And I go over to my more expensive makeup kit, which primarily came from Sephora, and that stuff will kill it in some settings and fabrics that I may have on. So again, relative to you are the performance feature. You are the actual core. You represent, the value of this product or item. And if it works for you, then you will appear to be, and perhaps in an evident way, show a high performance value or perform at a high level. The biggest culprit to performance in our lives is definitely our diets. Food is fuel. I know that for most of us, and I am very guilty of this, food is pleasure. You just want to taste a certain something. You crave crunch, salt, sugar, a little bit of both. I like pineapple on my pizza, and then I'll eat a bowl of peanut M&Ms afterwards. That right there is an awesome night. So, and chased with the, red blend, I am a happy camper. However, is that going to be my best performing fuel if I have to wake up early the next day and spend energy and be on point? No, probably not. So that's where performance comes down to, the internals. What's going on inside? Does this crawler appear to be doing better now in this footage as opposed to what I showed you earlier out at Peavine Trail in Prescott? It's the same exact truck. Different tires and wheels, but the base chassis and motor and the electronics, it's all the same. It's the same thing. I added the light bar. That didn't really provide anything more than a small amount of illumination. And the wheels and tires that are on it at the moment in this footage, there's not much of an advantage necessarily to the ones that I had on in the daytime footage in the Prescott, film. So now the difference is, where are we crawling? We're back into the crawl yard in the backyard. So these tires actually work better for this application. The tires that I had on this crawler in the Prescott footage, the daytime footage that you just finished watching, worked better for actual rock crawling. So it's also a matter of matching and qualifying what the challenges are. It doesn't really mean that spending more money is the answer. It means that understanding what is specifically needed for the job requires you to just find the right tool for that job. Back to the kitchen cutlery. Different knives work better for cutting different things and types of foods. A steak knife with serrations is a little overkill for cutting into a tomato, right? And for those of you that have no idea what happens in a kitchen, maybe you're the lucky one in your relationship or at home that just gets to eat and never has to cook. Sooner or later you'll find out, but that is one that I recently, kind of started to explore all over again, because I've never had really nice kitchen knives, and now I do, and I just like cutting things now. And initially when I started getting into RC crawlers, it wasn't even a crawler that I was trying to crawl with. It was just like a rock hopper buggy kind of thing. And once I finally got my hands on a real crawler, something that was designed to crawl, my mind was blown. I was like, wow, this is what it feels like. So, it's everywhere in our lives, from what you drive to work, to what you wear when you go to the gym. And performance is always relative. However, it's at times confusing, For your daily commuter, if you're driving out here in Arizona, we have a lot of lifted trucks with big tires. And lately, it seems like the majority of them have a bunch of massive flags attached to them. And you look up and what appears to be like a pirate ship on wheels is cruising down the highway. And ironically enough, that same very vehicle is going to have a bumper sticker somewhere slapped on the back of it that says it's Biden's fault that gas prices are up. However, when you really look at the problem, it comes down to maybe that's just not the most fuel efficient vehicle to be driving around. So therefore, the gas price and the price of fuel is completely redundant, because there's nothing aerodynamic and fuel efficient about a lifted truck with giant flags attached to it. Hey, fight me on this one. I dare you. But anyone with a minor understanding of how aerodynamics works would see that obviously that's not going to be a high performing daily driver. But it may work for that guy. Maybe he feels confident in that truck, and he works off of a very rough dirt road and he needs it to get him there. Who knows, right? Either way, performance is relative. It is fun. It is fascinating. If you look at, wonderful engineering qualities that exist in like the aeronautics world, aircraft and things that fly. Now you're talking high performing, engineered items, which is super cool stuff. But it could also be as simple as makeup, and definitely, our diets. So that's the message here. And I hope you guys, get the right, fuel for your life.